You ever have one of those moments where the universe just decides to show off its sense of humor? Mine came the day our HOA president kicked down my cabin door right in the middle of my meeting with the state attorney general. But before we get to that glorious instant of karma, let me rewind a little. Because 6 months earlier, I thought Karen Cromwell was just another power-drunk neighbor with too much free time and not enough self-awareness. I had no idea she was running a multi-million-dollar embezzlement ring right under our noses. My name's Marcus Henley, 52 years old, retired lineman. I spent 30 years crawling through muddy trenches, stringing up power lines across half the county. I'd finally earned my peace and bought myself time at my grandfather's old fishing cabin on Clearwater Lake. 2 acres of pine-scented heaven, tucked far enough off the grid that the air still smelled like campfire and rain. The kind of place where you wake up to birds, not sirens, and your biggest worry is whether the coffee's hot enough before the mist burns off the lake. Pop built that cabin with his own hands back in 1963. Every log was hand-hewn, every nail driven by calloused fingers that never touched a computer keyboard. The porch creaked in rhythm with the wind, and the stone fireplace still held the warmth of 1,000 stories. Pop used to tell me, "Marcus, when someone wants your land bad enough to start making trouble, find out why. It's always worth more than they're saying." I didn't know it yet, but those words were about to save my life. It all started on a Tuesday morning, one of those crisp spring days where the fog still hugs the water like a blanket. I was sipping my first cup of coffee on the porch, watching a pair of loons glide across the lake, when I heard the sharp click, click, click of heels on wood. Not boots heels. Designer ones. That sound didn't belong in the woods. I turned my head and there she was, Delilah Karen Cromwell, marching down my dock in a tailored blazer and sunglasses big enough to start their own weather system. She carried a clipboard like it was a weapon. Without so much as a hello, she started taping a paper to my screen door. "Violation notice," she said flatly, her perfume hitting me like a chemical cloud. "Your dock is unsightly and damages community property values. You have 72 hours to comply or daily penalties will accrue." I just stared at her, halfway sure I was dreaming. "Ma'am," I said, trying to stay polite, "this dock's been here since before you were probably out of high school. The HOA can't regulate property that predates it." She smiled. That tight, smug smile people use when they think they've already won. "Everyone on this lake answers to me, sweetie. Ask the Hendersons how well fighting me worked out for them." The Hendersons were my elderly neighbors, good people who'd lived here over 20 years. They'd just sold their cabin and moved away a few weeks back. I'd thought they wanted to downsize. Now I wasn't so sure. As Karen strutted back to her Escalade, license plate reading Rule 1, something cold settled in my gut. This wasn't about community rules. This was about control. Over the next few days, the citations multiplied like weeds after rain. One for my unauthorized solar panels, another for non-compliant vegetation, meaning my tomato garden. The third accused me of improper structural materials on Pop's handmade porch railing. Each fine was bigger than the last. I'd worked my whole life fixing power grids and dealing with bureaucrats, but nothing prepared me for this brand of crazy. Being a reasonable man, I decided to fight smart. Pop always said, "Paper beats talk," so I drove to the county courthouse, that dusty old brick building that smells like coffee, mildew, and forgotten secrets. The clerk, Betty, a sweet, gray-haired lady who remembered Pop from fishing tournaments, helped me dig through property records. We found the original deed, stamped, notarized, and clear as daylight. Pop's property extended 50 feet into the lake, meaning the dock Karen called illegal? It wasn't on community property at all. It was sitting dead center in my own legally owned water. When Betty slid the paper across the counter, her voice dropped to a whisper. "Marcus, your land was recorded in 63. That HOA wasn't formed until 98. They don't have jurisdiction over you." I thanked her and made copies of everything, my hands shaking just a little, half from anger, half from relief. But that feeling didn't last long. By the time I got back to the cabin, Karen's Escalade was blocking my driveway sideways. She rolled her window down just enough to talk through a crack. "Oh, Marcus," she said, smiling sweet as spoiled milk, "just reviewing parking regulations. You might want to stay put." The engine purred, perfume fog spilling out. I wanted to laugh, but I could see it. The challenge in her eyes. This wasn't over. Within a week, she'd launched something called the Lakeside Beautification Committee, basically a gossip army. Suddenly, the same neighbors who used to bring me cookies were crossing the street to avoid eye contact. Her Facebook page was full of posts about certain homeowners who don't care about community values. Pictures of my cabin, zoomed in, cropped to make it look like a junkyard, started circulating with hashtags like #LakesideStrong and #ProtectorProperty. 3 of my longtime neighbors, the Martinez, finally pulled me aside one evening. Tom's voice was low, nervous. "She told us to complain about your property, or she'd start citing us next. She's got something on everyone. Her husband works up at the Capitol. Connected, you know? Political stuff." That hit me hard. Suddenly I understood why people were folding so easily. This wasn't just a neighborhood feud. This woman had real reach. And when you mix power with paranoia, you get danger. That night, I found spray paint across my mailbox, bright orange letters reading "Comply or Leave." The paint still tacky, the smell harsh in the cold air. My security camera, hidden behind a pine tree, caught everything. License plate, timestamp and all. It was her. Middle of the night, 2:30 a.m., caught red-handed. I called the sheriff's office, thinking that would end it. Guess who showed up? Deputy Chad Cromwell, her nephew. He took one lazy look at the mailbox, shrugged, and said, "Probably just kids." Then he left. No report, no photos, nothing. I stood there under the flickering porch light, staring at that orange word "comply," and realized I was on my own. Pop's voice echoed in my head. When someone wants your land real bad, find out why. I didn't know it yet, but by digging into that question, I was about to uncover something rotten that reached all the way to the State House. And Karen Cromwell, the self-proclaimed queen of Clearwater Lake, was about to find out what happens when the wrong man refuses to back down. I didn't sleep much after that night. Every creak of the porch boards, every hoot of an owl outside had me on edge. I wasn't scared, not exactly, more like furious. You can take a man's peace, but when you start threatening his family legacy, you wake up something fierce in him. I'd worked too long and too hard to let some HOA tyrant destroy the one piece of land my grandfather had left behind. 3 days after my so-called compliance deadline, a letter arrived by certified mail. The envelope was heavy and official-looking, embossed with the name Blackstone, Meyer and Associates, the kind of firm that charges $500 just to answer the phone. Inside was a cease and desist order, accusing me of violating community waterway regulations. According to them, my dock extended into public lake territory, and I now owed over $3,000 in fines and retroactive fees. The letter even threatened to put a lien on my property if I didn't pay up in 10 days. I laughed out loud, then got mad all over again. I'd just seen my deed with my own eyes. I wasn't trespassing. They were bluffing. But the longer I stared at that letterhead, the more I realized this wasn't just Karen playing HOA games anymore. This was calculated, legal, strategic. Someone was feeding her the firepower. That's when I decided to dig deeper. Pop used to say, if they can't scare you with muscle, they'll try paper. So I packed up my coffee thermos and headed back to the county records office. The same musty basement, the same smell of dust and ink. Betty, bless her heart, met me with that knowing look only small-town clerks have. She slid a stack of folders toward me. "Marcus," I looked into that HOA's and corporation filings. "Something doesn't smell right." She was right. The HOA had filed amendments 4 times in the past 5 years, each one expanding its jurisdiction a little further around the lake. And funny thing, the signatures on those amendments? The same 2 names every time, Delilah Cromwell and Robert Cromwell, her husband. No votes from residents, no board approval. just a paper trail of self-authorization. Betty, I asked, leaning closer, what happens if they file false documents like this? Quote. She adjusted her glasses. Depends how far they went. If they altered boundary lines without proper surveys, that's fraud. And if they use those fake maps to collect fees or fines, that's embezzlement. Her words hit like a hammer. Fraud, embezzlement. This wasn't just a cranky HOA president. This was a con operation, dressed up in a blazer and pearl earrings. By the time I got home, my anger had boiled into focus. I printed every map, survey, and amendment I could find. The evidence pile on my table looked like the makings of a courtroom drama. But before I could even finish sorting it, I heard the crunch of tires outside. The smell of exhaust hit before I saw the car. Her Escalade again, parked half on my lawn, blocking the road. Karen got out in full costume, heels, blazer, HOA badge gleaming in the sunlight. She didn't even bother knocking this time. Marcus, she said, voice dripping with fake sympathy, we really don't have to make this difficult. If you just bring your property into compliance, I can make all this go away. I folded my arms. Lady, my property was built before your HOA even existed. You have no authority here. Her smile froze, then twisted into something sharper. Everyone answers to someone, Mr. Henley. Don't make me prove that. She turned and left, leaving her perfume and threat hanging in the air like smoke after a gunshot. That night, things got worse. I woke to the faint hum of an engine and the flicker of light across my window. When I stepped out onto the porch, her Escalade was idling at the edge of my driveway. Headlights off, just sitting there, watching. The only sound was the whine of insects and the slow thump of my heart. When I shouted, it sped off, taillights vanishing into the trees. The next morning, I found a dead squirrel nailed to my dock post with a bright orange tag. Community violation. That one shook me. I wasn't dealing with a normal person anymore. This was obsession. Still, I wasn't about to back down. I called my old friend Chuck Davis, a lawyer I'd gone to high school with. Chuck met me for coffee at Lakeside Diner, the kind of place that smells like bacon grease and burnt toast. He listened, brows furrowed, as I spread the paperwork out between the ketchup bottle and sugar packets. When I finished, he whistled low. Marcus, you realize what you've got here? This isn't an HOA dispute. It's criminal fraud. And you're not the only one. The Attorney General's office is investigating similar cases across the state. Corrupt HOAs, driving out homeowners, flipping their land to developers. Quote. That word again, developers. Pop had warned me about that too. When people start getting real interested in your land, they're not looking to be neighbors. They're looking to profit. Think about it, Chuck said. Karen's issuing fake fines, lowering property values, forcing out long-timers. Then her cronies swoop in to buy those properties cheap. It's a classic real estate racket. I nodded slowly, the gears in my head turning. So what do I do? Document everything. Dates, names, photos, videos. Build your case like you're already in court. And Marcus. Chuck's tone got serious. If she's tied to people at the Capitol, tread carefully. You're not just poking a bear. You're poking the whole damn den. So I did what I've always done best. Worked the problem. Every citation went into a binder. Every voicemail and message got backed up to a hard drive. I installed new security cameras under the eaves, hidden motion sensors near the driveway. I even started recording my phone calls. If Karen wanted a war, I'd fight it with evidence. Over the next few weeks, the harassment escalated like clockwork. Anonymous complaints to the fire marshal, unregistered solar installation, inspectors crawling through my attic, environmental officers testing my water for contamination. Each visit ended the same way. No violations found, but each one added to the official paper trail, painting me as a problem homeowner. Meanwhile, Karen was working the public angle. She got herself interviewed on Channel 7 News, standing right there on my dock, talking about unsafe conditions threatening our community's children. The camera zoomed in on the lake, the soft piano music playing under her fake concern. It made me sick. When the story aired, I sat there staring at the screen, fists clenched, the glow of the TV flickering across Pop's old stone fireplace. But you know what? Her lies caught someone else's attention. My old foreman Jake, now a senior electrician for the county, called me up. "Marcus, that lady's full of it. Your setup's cleaner than any commercial system I've seen. I'll bring the whole crew down to back you up." True to his word, 20 union electricians showed up at my place the next day, trucks lined up like a parade. They inspected everything, signed off on every connection, and took photos for their records. Within 48 hours, Karen's unsafe system story fell apart. That's when Chuck called again. "You ready for something big?" he asked. "The Attorney General's office wants to meet you. They're gathering evidence against HOA corruption rings statewide. Your case might be the key." I remember standing there on my porch, the lake still and silver behind him, thinking how far this mess had spiraled. From one citation about a dock to a state-level corruption case. I didn't want fame or fights, I just wanted peace. But if peace meant taking down a criminal in pearls, then so be it. So I said yes. We set the meeting for my cabin. The state wanted authenticity, they said. The very place where the corruption began. None of us knew that Karen would find out and turn it into the most chaotic, unbelievable showdown Clearwater Lake had ever seen. Because the moment she kicked through that door, her perfect world was about to collapse on live camera. The morning of the meeting was quiet, too quiet, like the lake itself was holding its breath. A thin mist floated over the water, the kind that blurs the line between dream and daylight. Inside the cabin, I'd brewed a fresh pot of coffee and laid out every folder, document, and photo on Pop's oak table. My hands shook a little, not from fear, but from knowing how big this had become. The Attorney General of the state, Patricia Williamson herself, was coming to my cabin to review the case I'd built against Karen Cromwell. She arrived right on time. No motorcade, no flashing lights, just a plain black sedan crunching over gravel. When she stepped out, she didn't look like a politician. She looked like someone's mom, calm, sharp-eyed, and unshakable. She smiled and extended her hand. "Mr. Henley, I've read your file. It's impressive work. You may have just helped us expose one of the largest HOA fraud operations in the state." Inside, she took a seat in Pop's old recliner and pulled out her thermos. "Let's talk through this," she said, flipping through the pages. Her tone was steady, professional, but I could feel the storm behind her eyes. "These financial transfers, the fake improvement fund, the insurance payouts, this isn't small-time theft. This is organized embezzlement." I nodded, my stomach in knots. "And she's been threatening everyone who tried to fight her. Seniors, veterans, single parents. Doesn't matter." Patricia looked up at me. "Good, because she just made her biggest mistake." Before I could ask what she meant, a faint roar echoed from the driveway, an engine gunning too hard, tires kicking gravel. We both turned toward the sound. I knew that noise. The Escalade. A second later came the voices. Muffled at first, then louder. I recognized Karen's sharp, commanding tone barking orders. "Start the live stream. Make sure you're rolling when I walk in." Quote. Patricia set down her coffee, completely unbothered. "That would be her?" "Yep," I muttered, "and she's about to regret being on time." Through the window, I could see her. Navy blazer, white blouse, sunglasses glinting like she was marching into battle. Two younger people followed her, both holding phones, recording everything. She was staging her grand entrance, her exposé. "This is it, folks," she shouted into her camera. "We're about to expose government corruption in real time. The Attorney General herself is meeting secretly with a known harasser." The heels hit my porch boards. Click, 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 each one like a countdown. My jaw tightened. Then, crash! The door burst inward with a splintering crack. Wood chips flew across the floor. Karen stormed inside, perfume cloud following, phone raised high. "I demand to know why the state is targeting private citizens," she screamed. "You're trespassing. You're conspiring against me." Her camera captured everything. My living room, the folders, the startled expression she must have expected to see. But instead of fear, she got calm professionalism. Attorney General Williamson stood, slow and deliberate, like a schoolteacher dealing with a bratty student. "Mrs. Cromwell," she said evenly, pulling out her badge. "Patricia Williamson, Attorney General of this state. You have just committed criminal trespass, destruction of property, and obstruction of an active state investigation, and you're broadcasting it live." Karen froze. The blood drained from her face. For one perfect second, she looked like a statue, phone trembling, mouth half open. Her voice cracked. I didn't know. This is harassment." "No, ma'am," Patricia said, stepping closer. "This is justice." From outside, I heard movement. FBI agent Rebecca Torres entered with 2 officers in plain clothes. She flipped open her ID. "Mrs. Cromwell, we have warrants for your arrest on charges of fraud, extortion, and witness intimidation. Please put your phone down." Karen tried to backpedal, still babbling to her followers. "You're all being recorded! This is illegal!" "My husband, he works for the state party. He'll have you fired." Agent Torres smirked. "He's already in custody, ma'am." The color drained completely from Karen's face. The officers moved in, reading her rights as the live stream kept rolling. The whole world was watching her downfall in real time. You could hear the handcuffs click, that sharp metallic snap echoing through my grandfather's cabin like thunder. Neighbors began gathering outside, drawn by the commotion. Mrs. Patterson, who'd driven in from Florida just to see this, was crying openly, whispering, "Finally." Tom Martinez stood on the edge of my porch, arms crossed, smiling like a man who'd just watched a monster fall. Karen was led out the door, muttering nonsense about conspiracies, while one of the agents collected her still streaming phone. Thousands of viewers were watching as their self-proclaimed HOA hero was shoved into the back of a federal vehicle. As her Escalade license plate Rule 1 was towed away, Attorney General Williamson turned to me. "Mr. Henley, I believe your grandfather would be proud. You didn't just protect your property. You exposed an entire criminal network." I swallowed hard, looking around the cabin. The cracked door frame, the scattered papers, the smell of fresh coffee mixing with pine air. Pop used to say the land picks you for a reason. Guess this was mine. 3 months later, I stood in the courtroom as Judge Michael Harrison sentenced Karen Cromwell to 3 years in federal prison. Her husband, Robert, got 18 months for conspiracy and misuse of office. Every stolen dollar, over $400,000 in all, was ordered repaid to the homeowner she'd cheated. The HOA was dissolved. In its place, we founded the Clearwater Volunteer Association. No fees, no citations, just good neighbors. The state legislature even passed the Henley Act, requiring all HOAs to undergo yearly audits and creating criminal penalties for harassment-based property manipulation. I received a whistleblower check from the recovered funds, $45,000, but the real reward came when the Hendersons moved back, when Mrs. Mundard Patterson hugged me at the block party, when people started smiling again around the lake. Now, on quiet evenings, I sit on Pop's porch with a cold beer and listen to the loons calling across Clearwater Lake. The dock creaks under the waves, the same dock Karen once tried to tear down. My solar panels hum quietly overhead. Peace has a sound if you listen close enough. Sometimes, the faint echo of that day comes back, the crash of wood, the click of handcuffs, the sound of justice landing where it belongs. And I smile, knowing that in the end, the little guy won. Because sometimes, when a bully kicks down your door, life hands you the perfect audience, the Attorney General of the state, and 3,000 people watching live. And that, my friends, is how Clearwater Lake finally got its peace back.